Greetings, mathematicians. Today we're looking at example 3b, completing or solving quadratic equations by completing the square. And 3b is going to be a little bit more involved than 3a. Notice there's distributive property here, and it's not set equal to 0. So let's get rid of the parentheses. 2x times 2x and a 2x times minus 10 does give us 4x squared minus 20x. And that's equal to negative 30 plus 6x. And we do have the variable terms on one side, but there is, and the constant on this side, but there's another variable term here. We need to move that plus 6x to the other side by subtracting 6x from both sides of the equation. 4x squared minus 20x minus 6x does give you 4x squared minus 26x. And it does equal negative 30. Now normally I would leave space here to complete the square, but the reason I'm not is because this 4 in front of the x squared needs to become a 1. That's actually the first step here, to divide sides by a to make the leading coefficient of 1. So in order to do that, I just divide every term by 4, and when I do that, 4 divided by 4 simplifies to 1 over 1. I really have x squared. And then I'm going to subtract 26 divided by 4 simplifies to 13 over 2, and so what I really have is minus 13 over 2x. And now I'm going to leave that space for completing the square, and 30 divided by 4 simplifies to 15 over 2. So I really have negative 15 divided by 2. So here is where I want to take half of this b value, negative 13 over 2, half of that, and then square it to put over here. So to see that, since it's not a nice number, let's take a look at 1/2 times, and remember what the formula is. It's going to be 1/2 times the b value. So my b value is negative 13 over 2 squared. So nothing simplifies. It is going to be negative 13 over 4 in parentheses, and then squared. So this negative 13 over 4 is 1/2 the b value. If I square negative 13 over 4, I do have add 13 times negative 13 times negative 13 is positive 169 divided by 4 times 4 gives me 16. So it's 169 over 16. And if I add 169 over 16 here, then I have to add 169 over 16 over here to balance out the equation. But on the left side, I have a perfect square trinomial. So, perfect square trinomial is always going to factor to x, and then because my b value is negative, minus 1/2 of negative 13 over 2, which is negative 13 over 4. So, it's basically minus 13 over 4 in parentheses squared. And here, I do need to add these fractions together. They're like terms. But that negative 15 over 2, we can multiply that by a ratio of 8 over 8. That's going to give me a 16 in the denominator, so I do need the negative 15 times 8. That's going to give me 120. So I'll go ahead and write that. So negative 120 divided by, and then 2 times 8 gives me my 16 plus 169 over 16. So this is really x minus 13 over 4 squared is equal to, when I combine, now I can add them because they have the same common denominator. Negative 120 plus 169 is 49 divided by 16. And again, when we have this step in completing the square, this is actually going to help us identify the vertex of this quadratic equation. The vertex would be the opposite of this number, and then for x, and the opposite of this number for y. So the vertex is actually 13 over 4, comma, negative 49 over 16. But we're solving this, so we're going to take it that next step further, and let's go ahead and take the square root. Since I'm running out of space, I'll go ahead and take the square root of both sides. This turns into x minus 13 over 4, and then the square root of 49 over 16. Remember, square root of a fraction is square root of the numerator divided by the square root of the denominator. So and because it's square root of a number, plus or minus 7 over 4. So now I have x minus 13 over 4. If I want x by itself, I'm going to add 13 over 4 to both sides. So plus 13 over 4. this is going to give me, and I'm going to write the answer over here, this is going to give me x equals, I'm going to write the 13 over 4 first, 13 over 4 plus or minus 7 over 4, and now I can split it up into my two answers. Since the denominator is both 4, I just need to add the numerator or subtract the numerator. So 13 plus 7, that gives me 20 divided by 4. That simplifies to 5, which is one of your answers. And then the other answer is 13 minus 7, that gives me 6 over 4. That fraction simplifies. GCF is 2, so 6 divided by 2 gives me 3 in the numerator. 4 divided by 2 gives me 2 in the denominator. So 5 and 3/2. And if you do turn the page on the packet, we actually verify that those are the correct answers of x equals 5 or x equals 3/2. Here, however, they're solving it using the zero product rule, setting the equation set equal to 0, factoring it, using the AC method, and doing all of that, but we still get the same answers. And that's how you find your solutions of the quadratic.